grab your boards. Welcome all surfers to Wavy's Atlantic Ocean. Surf, 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 baby. You wanna surf on the tidal wavy? Yeah, yeah. Twerk, baby. For certain, she moving so perfect. Surf, baby. You wanna surf on the tidal wavy? Twerk, baby. I'm loving the way that you surf it.
All my niggas, they gangbang, and all these niggas do the same thing. Counting money, living insane. Steady mobbing, let my flag hang. Told them I'm ready, I'm ready. I'm throwing a monster like Randy. I know that these niggas can't stand me, but the automatic come in handy.
Yo, you already know it's ATM Wavy, aka Mr. OMG, and you know it's me. In this Wavy's world, salute to all the surfers. You already know it's another Surfer Nation situation. You smell me? Huh. So, what we have here is this, I don't know what's wrong with this old dude, but we got Keefe D, you know what I'm saying? The same guy that got himself incarcerated for the unaliving of Pac. Now he trying to get somebody else caught up with him. And I'm sure you already know that someone else is, because you saw the thumbnail and you saw the title. He got the bad boy, baby. So we can go ahead and run this. All right, so as y'all see, you know what I mean, this bald head old dude, that's Keefe D. All right, that's Orlando Anderson's uncle. You know what I mean? You feel me? And Orlando Anderson, that's the guy that Tupac and the rest of the mob homies stomped out. You feel me? So this dude, you know what I mean, has recently did something even more weird than what he did to get himself locked up for Tupac's unaliving. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go ahead and react to this. Try to stop it as minimum, but you know I might jump in here and there. You feel me? Let's get to it.
Big developments in the case of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the man accused of orchestrating the murder of rap icon Tupac Shakur back in the 1990s. All these years later, the former gang leader is behind bars in Las Vegas and is insisting the case be thrown out. And he is implicating another music legend who's making headlines, Sean Diddy Combs. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is said to be behind one of the most infamous killings in history. Tupac Shakur, the 90s rap superstar, was gunned down while riding in a car with Suge Knight after the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. And over the years, there have been multiple investigations into Tupac Shakur's murder. But
man, me also add this because I didn't say it beforehand. I don't know you technically do have to say this, but as y'all can see already, I done started. But it's Law and Crime. You feel me? One of their segments called Sidebar, where they basically break down recent developments in different court cases. You know what I'm saying? They cover Diddy. You feel me? They cover big name thing. You know what I'm saying? The YSL charges cover. They cover all of that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So get over on Law and Crime Network. I believe that's the full name of the YouTube channel. You feel me? Let's get back to this. Oh, you already know, man. Forever, ever, Tupac, man. What you talking about?
there has been one man who has seemed to implicate himself in the assassination again and again and again. Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D. By the way, spelled sometimes with two F's, sometimes with two E's, even sometimes with a Y. Gets a little bit confusing, but Keefe D. Now, Davis was reportedly the leader of a sect of the Crips street gang in Compton, California that dealt in drug sales and trafficking. Davis eventually did time in prison on drug charges in the late 90s, but since getting out, he has been more open about his apparent involvement in Shakur's death. Davis released his own tell-all book. It's called Compton Street Legend, Notorious Keefe D's street-level accounts of Tupac and Biggie murders, death row origins, Suge Knight, Puffy Combs, and crooked cops. And he started granting interviews with YouTubers who wanted the inside scoop on what happened on that night back in 1996 out in Las Vegas. So Davis and several members...
So some of the interviews he did a Vlad interview. Y'all want to go check that one out. And I believe did he do a Cam Capone? I don't know the Cam Capone, but Vlad for sure. That's the most popular one. You know what I'm saying? That's like the most popular one. So yeah, Vlad, y'all want to see that? Go ahead and check that out.
Members of his entourage apparently attended the Mike Tyson boxing fight, but afterward in the casino, Shakur had attacked Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. The fight had apparently been sparked by a previous beef over an alleged stolen neck chain. So the men
That dude is the only person I ever heard call it a neck chain. And that might be the proper name. You know, us in the hood, you know, we tend to do our own things. So that might be the proper. I never heard somebody say, "Yo, dude, snatch my neck chain." They're like, what other chain they're gonna snatch? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That was just that right there was just that was just weird to me.
and eventually separated. The two groups went on their way, but Anderson, Davis, and others that were with them were reportedly still pretty heated over what had just happened. And later that night, allegedly, their plan was to target Shakur and Knight. And Knight, of course, is the head of, or was the head of Death Row Records, as they were all stopped at a traffic light. This is what happened.
Yeah, free Suge Knight too, man. All right, you feel me? I don't care what nobody talking about, man. Free Suge, you heard?
Now, in an interview with the Art of Dialogue channel, Davis said he was in the front passenger seat that night with DeAndre Big Dre Smith and Anderson in the back seat of the rented Cadillac. And what happens next? Who fired the shots? Take a listen.
Dre, he was the one that was supposed to shoot, Tupac and Suge, but he got scared, right?
No, he didn't really get scared. You know, he wasn't ready for that. They was youngsters, man, kids.
But once again, I mean, y'all Crips, right? So he should be used to that, right, Dre? So why was
He wasn't ready for that. Everybody got a role, man.
So he
Everybody
wasn't the
ain't killers.
shooter.
Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't gonna kill.
So
Everybody
Dre, he
ain't with
wasn't the
that.
shooter?
No.
Okay, so, but he was the one that was supposed to shoot up Tupac and Suge, but for some reason, he wasn't ready for it, so he gave the gun to Orlando, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And Orlando is the shooter. He's the known shooter. I mean, everybody know Orlando Anderson was a shooter. So Dre got cold feet. He didn't want to do it. He gave the gun to Orlando, and Orlando shot Tupac and Suge.
Yeah, he did his thing, yeah.
Now, let's be clear about something. Anderson has always denied that he was the killer. In fact, he died just a few years after Shakur in another shooting. The other men in the Cadillac, DeAndre Smith and the driver, Terry Brown, they are also both dead. But Davis told a lot of this information to Los Angeles and Las Vegas.
Yeah, real quick, my bad, I had to step away. But look, for those that don't know, Orlando Anderson, who's also known as Baby Lanes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he died in a shootout with the police. You feel me? For those that did not know that, 'cause they said shootout, but I'm just gonna let y'all know it was with the police. You feel me?
Investigators as well. And this is after he apparently became a confidential informant for a task force that was looking into the murder of Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls and the notorious B.I.G. By the way, we're about to talk about Diddy.
You already know too, just like I said about Pop, same go for B.I.G., the notorious one, man. Forever. Both them guys. You already know, man. Legends. You feel me? Legends.
We did a whole separate sidebar episode on how Sean Combs' former bodyguard came out recently, spoke on a documentary, and saying that Sean Combs could have been involved in the murder of Christopher Wallace. I encourage everybody to check it out if you're interested. But then going back to Tupac, we go to September of 2023. So this is 27 years after Shakur's death. And Davis was arrested near his home outside of Las Vegas and taken into custody. And since then, after he's been charged with the murder of Tupac Shakur, he and his legal team have been working to get him out of jail and to get his case thrown out. Now, we can say definitively he has lost both of those battles. He has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. He's supposed to go to trial in March, but I want to explain a little bit more about this. So earlier this month, Davis's defense team filed a motion to dismiss the case. And as part of his argument, he is pointing the finger, seemingly, at Sean Diddy Combs as the one who really is responsible for Shakur's death. At the time of Shakur's death, Combs was beginning his meteoric rise to the top of the rap world. He had started Bad Boy Records, now called Bad Boy Entertainment. And of course, there was this ongoing feud, West Coast versus East Coast, with this feud that he had with Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, again, the leader of Death Row. So I want to take a look at the legal arguments that Davis's team had in their filing. And it reads, Defendant Dwayne Keefe Davis hereby files this motion to dismiss on the basis that the state of Nevada has failed to timely pursue these charges against Mr. Davis, failed to provide corroborating evidence to support Mr. Davis's coerced confession, and failed to honor the federal proffer agreement between Mr. Davis and the United States government, thus substantially impairing Mr. Davis's constitutional rights. So two big arguments here. One is that the government waited too long to file the murder case, 27 years. They claim that this was done maliciously. By the way, though, typically speaking, there are no statute of limitations for murder. But even if they had filed the charges sooner, this is Davis's other argument, Davis says he's immune from prosecution thanks to an agreement he had with investigators when he was hauled in to talk about Tupac Shakur's shooting. And listen, remember, Bill Cosby, we all remember what happened to him. His conviction for drugging and raping a woman was vacated because his due process rights were violated, since a former DA had in fact made an oral promise to Cosby that he wouldn't be prosecuted. And remember, Cosby relied on that promise to admit some incriminating things about that encounter. So a high court actually determined his conviction should be thrown out.
Yeah, that was crazy situation with Cosby. Try to say he was out here touching the pudding pops. Wow. No, it ain't funny. It ain't funny, though. It ain't funny. Wow.
But going back to this, the first big interview that was referenced in the filing is from a couple years after Tupac Shakur died. On July 16th, 1998, Mr. Davis was interviewed by Assistant United States Attorney Michael Terrell. Mr. Davis's attorney, Mr. Eddie Fayol, was present. The interview was considered a proffer agreement between the United States government and Mr. Davis, under which any information provided by Mr. Davis would not be prosecuted related to that information. Mr. Davis was repeatedly questioned about the alleged murder of Tupac Shakur. Mr. Davis denied knowing who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis was asked to speculate as to who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis stated it was the Compton Police Department under the direction of Suge Knight, owner of Death Row Records. Mr. Davis was asked what would be Mr. Knight's motive, and Mr. Davis responded Mr. Shakur was getting ready to leave working with Death Row Records. At no time during the interview, less than 2 years after Mr. Shakur's shooting, did Mr. Davis state that he or members of South Side Crips were involved in any manner with the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Okay, goes to an issue of credibility. Well, Davis says he was interviewed again in 1999, and during that meeting, he denied that his nephew Anderson was the shooter. Mr. Davis stated that Mr. Anderson was not involved in the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis did discuss that Mr. Anderson was attacked by Mr. Shakur in Las Vegas the night of Mr. Shakur's shooting. Nevertheless, the decision was made to retaliate in Compton since there were so many police around in Las Vegas during the Mike Tyson fight. And during that interview, Davis blamed Compton police for spreading the rumor that Anderson had shot Shakur, although later we know that Davis himself would say that in public statements. But the motion to dismiss also says that Davis was offered immunity during the Biggie Smalls investigation in the early 2000s. The filing reads, the three LAPD and FBI agents were part of a task force to solve the shooting of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls, legal name Christopher Wallace. The task force, through a sophisticated criminal investigation, obtained sufficient evidence that would prove Mr. Davis was the leader of the South Side Crips and his gang was responsible for over 360 kilos of cocaine and PCP. Mr. Davis provided 3 interviews to obtain immunity from prosecution. The final interview were solely questions regarding the Tupac Shakur shooting, which Mr. Davis was also provided immunity from prosecution. So during a December 2008 interview with investigators, that is when Davis allegedly started to spill the beans about his one-time friend, Sean Combs, who he refers to as Puffy. He claims Sean Puffy Combs solicited Mr. Davis to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur for $1 million. Eric Zip Martin, an associate of Puffy Combs, provided Mr. Davis with a gun to exact revenge on Tupac Shakur for the beating Mr. Anderson received. Now, Davis reportedly told the investigators that even though the job had been partially completed and Shakur was killed, neither he nor Anderson ever got paid. He later revealed that he believes Combs had paid the go-between, Zip Martin, who he claims kept the money for himself. And he said much of the same thing in a 2009 interview a year later, because according to the motion to dismiss, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, as far back as 2009, was in possession of the same set of facts that the Clark County District Attorney is now alleging makes Mr. Davis responsible for the murder of Tupac Shakur. The Clark County District Attorney's Office has offered no reason as to why it waited another 14 years to prosecute a case against Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis has been irreversibly prejudiced by this unnecessary delay in prosecution of this case, and Mr. Davis's constitutional rights have been violated in an extraordinary manner never before witnessed in the annals of the American criminal justice system. Now, of course, there was a response, because the prosecutors from Las Vegas called out Davis for being quite dramatic and said he has been telling on himself for decades. So their motion in opposition to the motion to dismiss states, in the years following Shakur's murder, defendant Dwayne Keefe D. Davis confessed to being involved in Shakur's murder in nearly every form imaginable. Defendant confessed to some of his role in Shakur's murder during an interview with LVMPD Homicide in 2009. Defendant admitted to seeking a deadly confrontation with Knight and Shakur in interviews with the producers of the Death Row Chronicles in 2017. Defendant recounted his involvement in Shakur's murder in his book published in 2019. And defendant has gleefully claimed responsibility for the murder of Shakur in numerous YouTube interviews from 2019 up until his arrest. And the prosecution then addressed the issue of immunity from prosecution, right? Well, maybe he's admitting everything because, he thinks he's immune. They have a response to that. Quote, defendant asserts that he has received immunity from prosecution in this case. Defendant has provided absolutely no proof that transactional immunity was ever conveyed by any prosecuting authority. Defendant has provided no federal court order conveying immunity. Defendant has provided no California court order conveying immunity. However, even if he had such a grant, they couldn't possibly cover his criminal liability in Nevada. Defendant also claims that his proffer in 1998 and his statement to Detective Long somehow created immunity for the crime. As the court is aware, the legal community utilizes proffer to describe a contractual relationship between an interviewee and a prosecuting authority. In essence, a proffer agreement allows for statements made pursuant to the terms by the interviewee to not be used against that person. The state does not seek to utilize the 1998 proffer session against defendant and has no idea what the terms of such an agreement were between him and the federal government before he entered his plea. The report seems to reflect that this was a standard proffer where a criminal defendant is interviewed about his knowledge on all possible criminal subjects he may have information about before he's allowed to enter his plea. While he doesn't refer to the proffer agreement with the AUSA Searwright, the terms of that agreement are known. Defendant was specifically informed that this agreement was between him and the federal government. Moreover, the agreement is limited to a single date and time. It allows for the statements to be utilized on cross-examination of defendant if he ever testifies differently. Finally, the agreement is limited by its express terms. Nothing in that agreement suggests the defendant has immunity from any criminal charges. Notwithstanding, it appears to only apply by its express terms to an interview on December 1st, 2008. Certainly, defendant is free to litigate the admissibility of the December 18, 2008 statement. However, case law establishes that defendant's mistake of fact about its admissibility, particularly where he had a lawyer present who knows the specific terms of the agreement, would not lead to suppression of the statement, meaning it can't come into evidence. And on Tuesday, Clark County District Court Judge Carly Kearney agreed with the prosecution, saying Davis has provided no proof that he had any immunity deals, and we're going to expect to hear in the next few days if Davis's legal team plans to appeal that decision to the state Supreme Court. Remember, going back to Cosby, it was the Pennsylvania Supreme Court who ultimately determined that his conviction should be vacated because he had entered into an immunity agreement. So we shall see what happens.
All right, so that was my reaction. You know what I'm saying? So now I want to hear y'all reaction. You know what I mean? Because I know Pac was a lot of people's favorite artist. Is always a controversial subject when we're talking about Pac and the mystery behind how he died. And some people are saying whether he was dead. You know what I mean? You know, there's a whole lot of things going on for years. You know, people swearing they saw him in Cuba. You feel what I'm saying? They were swearing all these type of things. You know what I'm saying? So now y'all got some more detail to add to the mystery and the history. You feel me? So I'm not going to say much because pretty much explained itself. I ain't going to hold y'all up no longer. You feel me? I appreciate all of those for pulling up. We almost had a 1,000 subs. So you ain't hit that sub for the blood. Smell me? You feel me? So look, hit that sub, you know what I mean? Of course you gotta hit that like, cause I know a lot of y'all liking this. Come on, keep it real. Keep it real, baby. Keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Keep it real, you smell me? So hit that like, you know, downstairs, that basement, that comment section. Go down, yeah, right down there. You know what I'm talking about? Right down there. You smell me? Go down there, you feel me? And let's talk about it. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, this is last but never least. Look both ways before you cross that street, because you might get hit.